All right, so welcome back to the deep dive, everybody.
Now, today we're going to do something a little bit different for this deep dive.
Okay.
Typically, we are looking at hard facts, historical events, and
Real world stuff.
real world,
Right.
news stories, all that kind of stuff. But
Right.
today we're going to be looking at a piece of creative writing, which is something we haven't done before.
Oh, cool.
But it's pretty fascinating stuff.
Okay.
And it's all about this room of endless mirrors.
Interesting.
Yeah.
And I like it already.
I know, right? It's like
I'm intrigued.
super creepy. Just that concept alone, but it's got a twist.
Okay.
The reflections in these mirrors, they turn sinister.
Ooh, okay.
So it's definitely going to get a little spooky.
Yeah.
And I want to pose this question to you and to everybody listening. Have you ever felt trapped by your own reflection? Like by maybe expectations
Ooh.
or past versions of yourself?
Oh, yeah.
That's kind of the territory that we're going to be looking at today.
Okay, well, I'm excited to explore that.
I think it'll be a really fun, albeit spooky deep dive.
Yeah.
So let's dive into the imagery of this story. You step into this room and it's just, bam, mirrors everywhere.
Oh, wow.
Reflections going on forever.
Okay.
But the door slams shut and it vanishes.
Oh, no.
So now you're trapped.
You're stuck.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it really emphasizes all these sensory details, like, the coldness of the glass, the way that the reflections are just staring at you, unblinking. They leave behind these ghostly fingerprints.
Oh, that's creepy.
It's creepy, right?
Yeah, that's definitely unsettling.
So what were your first thoughts when you were reading this?
I think what really gets me about this is that it plays on this fear that I think we all have.
Mm-hmm.
The fear of the unknown,
Right.
Of losing control.
Yeah.
And I think also, like you said, of facing ourselves.
Yeah.
Which can be pretty terrifying.
For sure. Yeah, absolutely.
And so I think that's what makes this story so effective, is that it just taps into that really primal instinct.
Right.
The feeling of being watched.
Yeah.
And not just by anyone,
Right.
but by, versions of yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And I think mirrors, as we often see in literature and art, are this symbol of self-reflection.
Right.
But here they're distorted.
Yeah.
Something's off.
Yeah.
It's almost like we're looking at the shadow self.
Okay. The shadow self.
For anyone listening who might not be familiar with that term,
Sure.
could you kind of break down what that is?
Yeah, absolutely. So the shadow self
Yeah.
is a concept from Jungian psychology,
Okay.
and it refers to the hidden or repressed aspects of our personality,
Okay.
the part of ourselves that we might not like
Right.
or want to acknowledge.
Uh-huh.
So think of it like the dark side of the moon,
Okay.
always there, but not always visible. So, the things we're ashamed of,
Okay.
our fears, our aggression.
Right.
Those all get kind of stuffed down there.
Yeah.
And sometimes they leak out in unhealthy ways.
Yeah.
But, confronting them, that's what leads to growth.
Right. So these creepy reflections, they could represent those hidden parts of ourselves, the ones we try to keep buried.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And the fact that they're turning against the protagonist in the story, pressing against the glass, desperate to switch places,
Right.
that could symbolize the fear of those hidden aspects taking over, of losing control to our darker impulses.
It's almost like our darker selves are trying to break free.
Yeah.
And speaking of things breaking free, there's that one part in the story where one of the reflections actually reaches through the mirror
Oh,
and
yeah.
touches you.
That's scary.
I know, that image really stuck with me. It felt like
Yeah.
such a violation, this blurring of boundaries between self and reflection. And then, of course, the ultimate twist. The protagonist ends up trapped on the wrong side of the mirror. What does that mean? What does that mean to become the reflection? That's where this story gets really interesting.
Yeah, that's a good question.
Right. It's like losing your identity, becoming something you don't recognize.
Yeah.
Makes me think about all the stories about doppelgangers,
Uh-huh.
evil twins.
Right.
Why are we so fascinated by that idea, by this concept of an alternate self?
Yeah. I think it taps into that fundamental question of identity.
Yeah.
Like, who are we really?
Right.
What if there's another version of us out there? One
Yeah.
who's made different choices,
Right.
taken a different path.
Yeah.
And, it's unsettling. It's uncanny, to use a term from Freud.
Okay.
It's that feeling of familiarity mixed with fear.
Right.
The sense that something is both familiar and deeply strange.
Yeah.
And it makes us question the stability of our own identity.
So stepping back from the story a little bit, What do you think the writer is trying to say with all this symbolism, with these trapped reflections and shadow selves?
Well, I think it's a really powerful exploration of self-perception.
Oh.
It's saying that what we see in the mirror, both literally and metaphorically, isn't always the whole picture.
Right.
There are parts of ourselves that we hide even from ourselves.
Yeah.
And confronting those hidden depths can be terrifying.
It's a reminder that even though we strive for self-knowledge,
Right.
there are always going to be parts of ourselves that remain mysterious.
Yeah.
Maybe even a little scary.
Absolutely. And if our reflections aren't always what we expect,
Right.
what does that tell us about the nature of reality?
Yeah.
How we perceive it?
That's a good question.
What if the things we try to keep hidden are actually the keys to understanding ourselves more fully? And that's something I hope you'll all continue to ponder.
Yeah, definitely a lot to think about there.
That's going to do it for this deep dive. Thanks for joining us.
And we will see you next time.
See you later.